From Miller Waldrop Studios, this is Campus Live.
Campus Live sports show here live at GolfSuited here in beautiful Lubbock, Texas. My name is Logan, and I'm here with my co-host Lane. As always, Lane, how you doing on this beautiful Saturday?
I'm doing great, Logan. You know, we had our show on Tuesday. Unfortunately, you know, the Red Raiders, they lost a heartbreaker to Houston, but today hopefully they can bounce back as they travel up to Colorado, and we should have a really good show today and some really good information for y'all to know as we look forward to this game at Colorado.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one as the Red Raiders travel to Boulder, Colorado to take on the Colorado Buffaloes. But before we get any deeper into the show, I want to take a quick second to thank all the sponsors that make this show possible, starting with our host today. GolfSuited has hosted both our football and now our basketball sports shows here. It is a great atmosphere. Make sure y'all come out and join us. Some great deals, $2 pints as well as $3 megas out here as well. And then our other partners as well, Paint Doctor as well as Roof Masters of Lubbock. Thank y'all for making this show possible. Lane, let's hop right into it. As we look back on Tuesday's game, like you talked about, and a tough defeat for Texas Tech, but a lot of positive signs.
Yeah, you know, it was 69-65, but really, you know, what a game it was, Logan. You know, quickly this matchup between Tech and Houston is becoming one of the best rivalries in this sport. And you can see the mutual respect from Coach Sampson and Coach McCaslin. And, you know, after the game, you know, if you heard their press conferences, they gave each other so much respect. You know, you heard Coach Sampson talk about how good of a player JT Toppin is and just how good of a player Christian Anderson is, you know, dealing with those double teams all night long. Every single possession that we were on offense and Christian touched the ball, he was getting double teamed. And then, you know, we were up basically the whole entire game, honestly, until really at the very end. We were up 59-55, and then Houston basically went on a 14-3 run. You know, you can say it was 14-6, but that Christian Anderson half-court shot really didn't count, and that was in the final 3:38 of the game. So that 14-3 run by Houston right there is really what won them that game, and it was led obviously by Kingston Flemings. What a player he is. I think we might have to start calling it You Got Fleming because he did the same exact thing to Cincinnati literally one game before. And then I thought Chris Sinak Jr. was so big for the Cougars down in the stretch of that game on the defensive end and on the offensive end, Logan.
Yeah, they're a great team all around. We saw it through and through. Their defensive tenacity is just like no other. You cannot prepare for that. You cannot replicate what they are able to do with ball handlers, and they made Christian's life hell. Like his whole game, he was having to, like you said, go through double teams and try to pass out of that because he did not get any open looks all night long. A couple layup, you know, opportunities, but other than that, he was getting their closeouts, I think, was what stood out the most. Being able to rotate out of those double teams and effectively affect every shooter, not named Jalen Petty, because Jalen Petty, he had a phenomenal night. I think we talked about it. I know I did on the pregame show, saying that he was the X factor, and you know, 20 points for the freshman. He was amazing. He kept Texas Tech in this game and allowed them to, you know, take those leads at certain parts of the game. He was amazing. I think that, you know, being 4 of 6 from the three-point line at just halftime was able to show that this kid is ready for the moment, and he's been one of the standout players.
Yeah, I thought Donovan Atwell played a really good game too. Even though, you know, his shooting numbers, he was like 3 of 10, 3 of 9 in that range from the three-point line. I thought he was extremely effective, and he was extremely effective because he is such a good shooter. Every single time he touched the ball, it seemed to get another guy open, like a Jalen Petty, where then Jalen hit his 4 threes, scored 20 points, and then really, you know, I thought our player of the game was JT Toppin, what he was doing on both ends of the floor. He had 5 blocks, a few steals. He had another double-double. He's been Mr. Do-It-All all year for us. You know, when we've dealt with all of our injuries all year long, Christian Anderson, like we said, being double-teamed every single play, I thought he handled it really well for the most part. And, you know, Christian did have some bad turnovers. But besides that, I thought he played well. Some of those turnovers weren't exactly on him. But really, I thought where we probably lost this game was really Lawan Watts on the offensive end. I thought he played good on the defensive end. But, you know, we talked about it actually yesterday on the podcast. Great on the defensive end, but now against these top teams, you know, in the non-conference schedule and then now, really besides that Duke game and the Illinois game, he did play, obviously, in the Duke game. He was amazing. And the Illinois game, he scored well. But now against, if you combine the Illinois game, Purdue game, Arkansas, and Houston game, he's only shooting 12 of 29, 41% from the field, and only averaging 8.5 points per game. And that's including his 22-point outing at Illinois. So if you took that away, I mean, you can see that against top teams, Lawan has kind of struggled this year besides the Duke game. And even though, it has been only, it's a 4-game basically schedule to put together for Lawan. Big 12 play is so intense. Every game is similar to that Houston game when you're going on the road. Obviously, every team isn't Houston personnel-wise, but the Big 12 is so tough, and I think that he's really got to keep stepping up on the offensive end because we had thought he'd kind of gotten over that hump, Logan.
Yeah, he had a tough night for sure, but to say the least, he missed some gimmies. I mean, we saw a couple layups that he missed throughout the game, but what you said, he's making huge strides on the defensive end of the floor, and to be able to do that, from what we saw early in the season, he was an offensive guy. We didn't really see a lot of defensive tenacity. He's been able to kind of filter that over on the defensive side of the ball. I think that he's got a lot, of this new experience playing with Washington State. He wasn't able to play the superior competition as much as he is now. I think as we start to play some of these teams and he starts to see these big-time defenses, that he's going to start figuring out different ways to play the ball. They're going to need him in the short roll in probably tonight because Houston showed the script of being able to pressure the ball and double-team Christian up top. And with JT playing the slot in that little short roll, I think JT can only do that so much because JT isn't the most, the biggest facilitator. You pass the ball great, but when he has to make multiple dribbles, you can see him put that head down and try to get into that lane and make some bad passes or shoot some bad shots. Lawan needs to be that guy, and he needs to take some pressure off Christian, bringing the ball up the court. I think that he is going to start figuring himself out. I think you never seen a defense like Houston until you play Houston. I think we've seen that, and I think that's why you see JT and Christian play better games now, having seen 2 times that defense and how they are able to pressure the ball. Now, Christian, there is no replicating what they did to him, and I don't think Colorado is going to definitely have the pieces to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah, and you might try to see other teams try to replicate a similar strategy. Obviously, Houston was doing it every single time he touched the ball. So you might see teams do it for a few possessions, maybe a half. But Houston and Kelvin Sampson, every single year they have one of the best defenses in the country. And, you saw Christian struggle a little bit with that. But I thought that he handled it really well, though. And I thought that there were times where whenever he was beating the double team, whenever Toppin would catch the ball at the top of the paint, and that's where he was facilitating, I thought that was extremely effective.
Yeah, up in the middle of the paint,
and
sure.
I thought that was extremely effective, and I wish that we would have gone back to that more. We were kind of swinging around on the three-point line, and we really didn't shoot that well. Besides Jalen and Donovan hitting their threes, we really did not shoot the ball well at all, and I thought that we really could have taken advantage of JT inside because obviously whenever he catches it in the paint, he's going to draw a double team, especially from a guy like JoJo Tugler and Chris Sinak. And you saw him, pass it a few times to Leon Horner, get some easy layups. I thought that we could have done that some more. Obviously, in the end, we ended up losing a close one, but tonight, on the road against a much improved Colorado team, and I think you're going to see the offense really get back into the rhythm that we had seen the past few weeks, Logan.
Yeah, I think I've never been worried about the offense for Texas Tech. You're going to have some of these lulls when you play in the Big 12 where you're not going to score a bunch. But being able to hold Houston to what they did and the way that Houston was unable to really get clean, open shots is a very positive sign for Texas Tech, in my opinion, because we've seen at the beginning of this year, they were not able to get stops. You saw Andre Stojakovic get to the paint at will and get wherever he wanted to his spots. You've been able to see that outside of Kingston Fleming, which it seems like nobody right now can stop that guy from getting to his spot in the mid-range. They did a great job of being able to close out on guys. A big first half from Emmanuel Sharp, much quieter in the second half. And then, in the paint, we thought JoJo Tugler would be a big part. Chris Nat he had 11 points in the paint. But other than that, you were able to really, play really good defense for a team that really hadn't been able to play extremely elite defense. I think that's a positive sign with a team that is very good offensively in Colorado, not so much elite defensively. I think that plays right into Texas Tech's hands and the way that their trajectory as of late.
Absolutely, Logan.
I think that's going to wrap things up here for segment number 1 of our Campus Live Sports Show. Make sure you stay tuned and come out here to Golf Suites for some great deals, $2 pints, $3 megas. Come out and join us. It's already a great crowd starting to fill in. NFL, playoff football, Texas Tech basketball, no better place to be. And again, thank you to our sponsors of Golf Suite Doctor for their support of the Campus Live Sports Show. Make sure y'all come out and Texas Tech. in the next segment. And as always, wreck 'em.
Wreck 'em.
What's up, Campus Live fans, and welcome back to the second segment of our Campus Live sports show here live at GolfSuited. In our first segment, we recapped the tough loss against Houston, but this segment, we're really going to talk about all things Texas Tech and really where they're at and where they've come and what players to watch out for if you are just now watching your first Texas Tech game. But before we get any deeper into that, I want to take another second to thank our partners for making this show possible, starting here with our host, GolfSuited, here in Lubbock, that has hosted all of our watch parties and our Campus Live sports show, as well as Paint Doctor and Roof Master of Lubbock. Lane, hop it right into Tech. What stands out to you?
Yeah, we're 11-4 this season. We really discussed at length on Tuesday about the much improved play that we've seen over the last 3 weeks or so of our defense. Now we talked about it on Tuesday how we were 64th. Now we've jumped into the 40s on the defensive side for KenPom rating. Now on offense, we're still top 15, one of the best offenses in the country. Obviously, when you go play a team like Houston, you're going to struggle on offense a little bit, and you might have to see that rating drop a little bit. But I have no doubt in my mind that defensive effort that we've seen over the past 2 weeks or so, our defensive rating is just going to continue to keep climbing. And obviously, if this is your first game that you've watched this year, Texas Tech, we've had a huge wins over Duke this year. We've had a big win over LSU. Now starting Big 12 play, obviously we started off with a win over Oklahoma State. Obviously, like Logan said, a tough loss at Houston. But tonight, it's going to be a big opportunity to bounce back on the road against a much improved Colorado team that we'll touch on later in obviously in Colorado's segment. But in years past, Colorado, they actually have been one of the worst, teams in the country. And they've actually already made history this year with their team. They hadn't won a road Big 12 game technically in 15 years because they left the Big 12. And then before then, they were not a very good program. And then their first 2 years back, they have not won a road Big 12 game. So they've actually already done that this year, sitting at 2-0 in Big 12 play. So for Texas Tech tonight, I think, like we've talked about really these past two shows, continuing to see their defensive effort rise, and then obviously continue one of the best offenses in the country, Logan.
Yeah, Texas Tech has been elite on offense, and it led by your two All-Americans, JT Toppin and Christian Anderson have led the way throughout this whole season. And it's been the role player guys that we have seen slowly start stepping up and really putting them into that national stage. That's why against Duke you saw Lawan Watts and a couple other guys step up, while Christian Anderson had a breakout game that game to be able to pull up that huge upset, and Duke's only lost to this point. But you see that you're starting to see guys like Donovan Atwell assert themselves on both sides of the basketball. Jalen Petty, like we talked about earlier, he's been extremely productive, and being able to be, once he got inserted into the starting lineup to replace Tyree Bryan, he has really taken his game to another level, and he's been able to shoot the three ball, and I think that's something that Texas Tech has to have. They got to be able to have three-point shooters outside of JT Toppin and Christian Anderson, and I think those are guys that really have continually stepped up. But if they want to win and be the team they thought they could be at the beginning of the year, you just had to step up another level, and I think guys like that, you're going to see Tyree Bryan have to step up. He has not played well. He had one breakout game against Oklahoma State, did not play well on Tuesday. That's another guy you're looking to do things on both sides of the basketball. But in terms of the team identity, this team is going to be built on offense. They are a better defensive team, like you said, but they're built on offense and not turning the ball over. We saw against Houston turn the ball over 14 times. It's not going to win you a game against an elite team, but they have been exceptional at not turning the ball over up to that point.
Yeah, I think, too, you talking about the rotations, I think Coach McCaslin really has found definitely his five that he completely trusts, and he's going to play at least 30 minutes a game. But I think right now he's testing 3 or 4 different guys right now, seeing which guys he can find the most consistency out of. Obviously, against Duke, we saw Nolan Groves have his best game as a college basketball player. So good on the defensive end, guarding guys like Cameron Boozer, Isaiah Evans. And then also, you like against Oklahoma State, Tyree Bryan, he had a great game, but really that's probably the only game that we've really seen him break out like that this year. And then, you got guys like Leon Horner. I think he's given great minutes whenever he's been on the floor this year. I think he's a guy that Coach McCaslin is definitely going to continue to trust. Every single game that he gets in, it seems like he gets a good offensive rebound here, or a big defensive stop, or he gets 3 or 4 different layups that no one else has provided on this team. He provides a different element, in my opinion, for this offense and on the defensive side. He's a good defensive player. And as we kind of navigate all the injuries we've dealt with our big guys, we'll discuss it here in a second with our injury report. But really, I think Coach McCaslin, he's going to find his 7 to 8 guys he can trust in this rotation. And then whenever guys like Luke Bangboye, and then obviously tonight, seems like Mario Okuntak's going to come back, adding those our 2 big men back into the mix, that's whatever you're going to see this team really start to gel, Logan.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you're starting to figure out who the guys are that you're going to be able to play consistently. But what I will say is that you're seeing guys like Christian Anderson, he's not going to come out of basketball games.
Yeah.
That's just going to be what it is throughout this entire season. He is going to be playing 38-plus minutes every single night, getting, like last game, he got 26 seconds off the court at the end of the first half. But other than that, this kid is going to play, and he's built up that stamina to be able to show that he can play throughout the whole game. JT Toppin the same way. He's going to play extended minutes throughout the whole game. But one guy you've seen just take, he's kind of below, he's not really the guy that sticks out, but Donovan Atwell has played 38-plus minutes in the last 4 games. That guy has really shown that he can play, and he's not going to be a liability on either side of the basketball. His catch and shoot ability has been elite. He's been much better with the catch and shoot in the last about month, and his defensive performance has been great. And, you're being able to see him start working his way into playing the entire game. Another guy, Jalen Petty playing a huge amount of minutes. I am very interested to see today, though, with Mario Okuntak possibly coming back, how much does he play? We've built this kind of chemistry with the small lineup. How does he factor in? He didn't play much before the injury, but you need that big in there against, some of these guys like Bang Dak that you're going to talk about later. Some of those guys for Colorado, the bigger bodies that you're going to play throughout, Koa Pete when you play Arizona, some of these big guys, you got to get these big guys back. But how does Grant work these guys back in without ruining the chemistry that he's already built?
Yeah, I think too, speaking on minutes, it's not a sustainable recipe for success. Whenever we get deep in this season, I mean, literally if Christian or JT gets in foul trouble, that could be our season. So being able to spell guys in literally just for 4 or 5 minutes where Okuntak could come in, or, hopefully when Luke Bangboye comes back in, he's such a defensive anchor. Hopefully that can, relieve JT's duties on the defensive end. He's had to carry us so much over these past few weeks, blocking shots, getting rebounds, and things like that. I think it's going to be really important as we move forward on in this season that we've got to be able to find guys to spell Christian and JT and Donovan and Jalen and Lawan just a couple minutes where they're not so gassed at the end of the game. I think that's part of the reason why Houston won that game, is because we were giving such a great defensive effort that I think we just kind of ran out of gas there in those last 2 or 3 minutes, and Houston took advantage of it and went on that 14-3 run. But I don't know, Logan. It's going to be really interesting to see, and I think it's kind of a perfect segue into our injury report segment, because that is a big reason why that we are seeing the minutes skyrocket for a lot of these guys right now. But first off, fans, this week's injury report is sponsored by the Exceptional Community Hospital. We just want to say thank you so much to the Exceptional Community Hospital for sponsoring Campus Live and the Campus Live pregame sports show. And we just want to make sure that y'all visit their 24/7 state-of-the-art hospital and ER located at 6401 Spur 327 in Lubbock. And they accept all insurances and have short ER wait times. And once again, fans, we just want to say thanks to the Exceptional Community Hospital here in Lubbock. Obviously, Logan, we just talked about Muriel Okuntak potentially coming back. Luke Bangboye, Josiah Mosley, and Latrell Hoover, all are 3 still out. And it kind of sounds like Josiah Mosley and Latrell Hoover might redshirt this year. So obviously getting Okuntak back tonight is big, Logan, and hopefully we get Bangboye back probably before the BYU game, hopefully.
Yeah, it sounds like, about a week and a half away from Luke Bangboye coming back. You need him for that BYU game, and I think you're in a stretch right now where you can kind of, fluctuate. If he ain't 100% ready to go, I would not bring him back yet. That is the game you need. I think if you get anything out of Josiah Mosley this year, it'd be a miracle. It seems like all reports that he is trending towards not being able to play this season, which is a big loss because coming into the season, Grant McCaslin was very, very high on Josiah Mosley. I think that he's going to be a guy that, if he does redshirt this year, that's great. Let him get another year into the system, another year healthy. But he would be just a great benefit if we do and are able to get him maybe towards the back half of the season, towards the tournament. But like you were talking about earlier with the injury coming in and being on the spill, there's just been a lot brought on, the JT Toppin and the Lawan Wattses of the world as your only bigs, your big bodies. They're not even really bigs. forwards, if you could say. I mean, Lawan Watts, small forward. JT is probably more of a small forward than a center, but he plays at the 5 consistently. I think once you get a big body like a Kumtai here, just to fill up some space, defensively, he could be an anchor for you against some of these guards that you're going to get against Colorado that want to get into the lane. I think that it's going to be great, and they need these guys back as soon as possible, especially for this huge 5-game we're going to have when we play BYU at Baylor. Then we got Kansas. You got Houston again. I mean, that is a killer of a schedule, and you need these guys back.
Absolutely, Logan.
And I think that's going to wrap things up here for segment number 2 of the Campus Live Sports Show here live at Golf Suites. Make sure you stay tuned and come join us for segment 3 as we break down all things Colorado in this game. So make sure you come out, get the $2 pints, $3 megas, and a huge thank you to Golf Suites, Paint Doctor, as well as Roofmaster of Lubbock. So make sure you stay tuned for segment number 3. And as always, wreck 'em.
Wreck 'em.
What's up, Campus Live fans, and welcome to the third segment of the Campus Live Sports Show here live at GolfSuited here in beautiful Lubbock, Texas. We have had two great segments so far, and we're going to break down everything you need to know about the Colorado Buffaloes as Texas Tech travels to Boulder, Colorado to take them on here in just about 20-ish minutes. But before we get started, I want to take a quick second to thank our host here, GolfSuited, as well as Paint Doctor and Roof Master of Lubbock for their support of the Campus Live Sports Show that allows us to come out here and talk ball with all of y'all. Lane, last year we saw a Colorado team that struggled throughout the entire season, but they are off to a very, very hot start. What do we need to know about them?
Yeah, they're 12-3 this year. You know, their three losses aren't to the best teams, I would say. You know, their most recent loss was to Northern Colorado, but you know, Northern Colorado gave us a ton of trouble, and that was here in Lubbock. And Northern Colorado ended up actually beating Colorado. So I think that might be one of the best mid-majors this year. You know, we might end up seeing at the end of this year. So, you know, you maybe can't take that loss with too much of a grain of salt or not, because this Colorado team is really decent. They're much improved from their past 2 years when they were pretty terrible, to be honest. And this year they have 5 guys who are averaging in double-digit points. They have one of the best rebounders and kind of bigs in the country. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife with Bangot Dak. And Isaiah Johnson, he's been one of the best freshmen in the country this year, and he's coming off the bench. He averages 15 points per game. Sebastian Rancic and Barrington Hargris, they've been really, really good too. Both of them averaging about 13 points per game. They have basically a top 50 offense in the country this year in Ken Palm. Average around 87 points per game. And, you know, like I said earlier, really where they've lost their 3 games, Logan, is because of their defense. Their defense is ranked near the 200s in Ken Palm. And even though they are a pretty big team, besides their 2 guards in Johnson and Hargris, all of their other starters and guys that get their big minutes and their 6-man, they're all over 6'9". So they are a very big team, kind of a contrast of what Texas Tech is. That could be a big advantage for them tonight. But as kind of we've seen all year, it could be kind of a mirage because their defense isn't very good. But it should be really interesting to see, Logan.
Yeah, they're one of the most prolific offenses in the country as well. They love to get out and run. They are a very, explosive offense, but they get out and run in transition. They want to play in transition, and that is something that could be a problem for Texas Tech due to what we talked about in the last segment with the lack of depth that we have in the front court for sure. JT having to get back and play defense because he's going to have to anchor down, like you said, Dak, one of the better bigs in the Big 12. He's played really well this season. One thing that sticks out, one more Big 12 win for Colorado will match what they did last year in the Big 12 conference with 3 wins, already off to one of their better starts. They have been much improved, like you said, but Isaiah Johnson is a guy that I'm looking out for. He's versatile, and he is a 15-plus points per game scorer, something that you see throughout the Big 12 with very good guard play. Texas Tech has one, if not the best. You saw Kingston Fleming. You're going to face talented guards every night, and this is the guy on Colorado that they're going to play their offense through. When he comes into the game, I think that it's going to be a Jalen Petty kind of guy. I think you're probably going to put Jalen Petty on him to guard him throughout the night to lay off on Christian Anderson. I think that, like you were saying, defensively not good, and Texas Tech elite in that. I think you're going to see high scoring game from Texas Tech. Now, will Texas Tech's defense be able to step up and limit some of these guys from scoring at their average?
Yeah, and Tad Boyle, really, this group, I kind of spoke on it earlier. This is kind of a crazy stat. If you weren't watching whenever we were discussing earlier, Colorado this year had their first Big 12 road win technically in 15 years after they left the Big 12, and then before then, and then obviously the 2 years now back. This is their 3rd year being back into the Big 12. Their first 2 years back, they had not won a road conference game in the Big 12, and they've already accomplished that this year. So kind of like I said earlier, starting off 2-0 in the Big 12, they beat Arizona State, and really, Arizona State, obviously, every single year they have a talented bunch. So I think that can kind of speak to really how offensively talented this Colorado group is. They scored I think it was 95-89 in that game. So this is a talented offensive team. And I think something that could be interesting, too, today, Logan, which obviously in our predictions we'll discuss that a little bit more, but our guys and how much they play, I wonder if the altitude is going to take an effect on our guys today. You wonder if you might see more rotations today because it is a factor. The altitude is something that definitely can hinder your performance if you're not used to it, and those Colorado guys are used to it. And sneakily, they are, even though as bad as they've been, really over the past few years or so, they are a decent home team, and they play well at home. And I wonder it's because of that altitude factor. It's going to be really interesting today to see Logan, and I think I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough matchup. I really do.
Yeah, it's going to be a close game. You see the line is 6.5. Heading into this game, Texas Tech, obviously on paper, looks like the superior team based on not just this year's success, but past success. But this Colorado team plays matchup nightmares with Texas Tech. You're saying the altitude, that's going to play a pivotal part to this, but as well as, the ability to produce off the bench for Colorado has been something Texas Tech hadn't seen much, a very low-scoring bench production from Houston. Texas Tech has seen teams with majority starting lineup, production, and you got to think, like, with their ability to be able to rotate some of these pieces in and get the same amount of production as their starters get, will that play a part in them being able to throw multiple different bodies at them? With Texas Tech's only going to throw probably 6 or 7 in a normal, typical fashion, aside of, being able to dealing with the altitude and foul trouble. You may see some extra guys come in here or there, but I think it's going to be a very interesting game, and I think that Colorado's playing with something to prove here. This is a big time matchup for them, and this is a win that could seal a potential Big 12 or NCAA tournament appearance.
Yeah.
This is a big resume builder that they have the opportunity to, and they're at home. Rumors are it's a sold out arena in there. Over 11,000 people will be in the building tonight.
Wow.
To see Texas Tech take on Colorado. So I think it's going to be a game where they're going to be getting up for you, and you got to be able to match their intensity.
Absolutely, Logan.
And I think that's going to wrap things up for our third segment here of the Campus Live Sports Show. Not a lot to talk about for Colorado, a lot of unknowns with the Colorado offense. So we'll see exactly what we see with Texas Tech tonight. Make sure you stay tuned for our fourth segment as we break down our predictions, our paving the way to victory segment presented by JSI Services, as well as some predictions for some games that will be happening and tipping off after our game as well. So make sure you stay tuned and come out and enjoy. Thank you to Roofmaster of Lubbock as well as Paint Doctor for making this show possible. Come out and join us and watch the game. And as always, wreck 'em.
Wreck 'em.
What's up, Campus Live fans, and welcome to the fourth segment of our Campus Live sports show here live at GolfSuited here in Lubbock, Texas. We've had a great 3 segments. We've let you know everything you need to know about Texas Tech versus Colorado as they travel to Boulder, Colorado to take on the Buffaloes. But in this segment, we're kind of going to break down everything and give you our paving the way to victory or our keys to victory presented by JSI Services here in a moment, as well as break down some of the other games that have not tipped off before. We'll give our predictions as well as break down some games that have already happened today, as it has been a wild day in college basketball and our game hasn't even tipped off yet.
Yeah.
So, Lane, how you want to start us off?
Yeah, this is the fun segment, Logan. Get to predict games, get to talk about some. There's been actually some pretty big upsets today. First off, Michigan, they lost. They had looked like maybe the best team in the country this year. But kind of, against Penn State on Tuesday, too. We were watching that game before our game, and they kind of struggled on the road at Penn State, too. So maybe Michigan, not as tough as we originally thought, but it looks like Arizona continues. I think that they are the best team in the country right now. They had a huge win over TCU. TCU much improved this year. They went on the road and really should have beat Kansas earlier this week, and Arizona had no trouble with them today. Florida, they blow out Tennessee. Auburn is up big over Arkansas right now, and then in the Big 12 as well, West Virginia had a double-digit victory over Kansas. Logan, what's been kind of some surprises for you today, and what's some of your reactions?
Yeah, Michigan going down. They look like a buzzsaw that was going to be unstoppable since the Wake Forest, and TCU games where they played them a little close. We saw the Penn State game where Penn State had a chance to win it at the buzzer, ran a play that, they probably regret running it. But today, what really stood out in that game is Wisconsin 15 of 33 from the three-point line. They could not miss in the second half, and you just saw that Michigan slowly realized this team is going to hang with us, and then unable to close it out at the end. But a game that really stuck out to me, Nebraska being able to continue their undefeated season, down 9 points at half, down as much as 14 in that game, and they come back to win 83-77. And Lamar Wilkerson for Indiana was amazing, 32 points. But Nebraska ball might now be the best team in the Big Ten. And the Big Ten's got some big-time players this year in basketball. That's the game that kind of stuck out. And, of course, Duke pulling off another top 25 win. Now 15-1 with their lone loss at Madison Square Garden against the Red Raiders.
And Fred Hoiberg, we should have known. I mean, he built Iowa State. He was the building blocks. Obviously, now they have a great coach in Iowa State. They're one of the best teams in the country this year. But, before Fred Hoiberg went to the NBA, Iowa State was pumping. And, as he came back and now he's at Nebraska, seems like that they're humming on all cylinders right now, too. And, man, I think that they look like one of the best teams in the country right now, Logan. And kind of as we move forward to some games that are going to be really tipping off around the same time as ours, we got Texas versus Alabama and BYU at Utah. First, we'll start with Texas and Alabama. I think we can kind of keep this one short and sweet. I think Texas is really struggling right now. They are really not that good on the defensive end. They have some pretty decent offensive players, like with Dalen Swain. He's been one of the best players in the SEC this year. But I think Alabama, especially at home, this one's not going to be close at all. It could get ugly. I got Alabama winning 95-75, Logan.
Yeah, LeBaron Philon he's going to get up for this game after his coach's, post-game press conference about how he's cramping now, and he'd only played a limited amount of minutes. I think that he's going to have a big game tonight, but Alabama is just much more talented than Texas, and the free fall of Texas basketball since Chris Beard's departure is something that it's tough for Texas fans as you had the highs of highs. Chris Beard brings you an Elite Eight team. You're minutes away from a Final Four, and now you're here. I think Alabama runs away with this game. I think Alabama reaches the century mark. I think it's 101-85.
And then, I think Bama's going to score all day on Texas. But then we have, technically the Holy War, but just in basketball. This was a great game in football this year. Even though this is really a different type of matchup, BYU is one of the most talented teams in the whole entire country in college basketball this year. A.J. DeBansa, man, he's phenomenal. And just the rest of their team, Richie Saunders, all of those guys. I think that, this is a rivalry game. It is at Utah. It might be close, in the first half, but BYU is so talented. They're one of the deepest teams in the country this year, one of the best teams in the Big 12. Utah keeps it close in the beginning, but I think BYU pulls away late in the second half, and they win 85-70.
Yeah, BYU is so talented. You talk about A.J. DeBansa, possibly a top 3 pick, if not number 1. Keba is on there. You know, Rob Wright from Baylor, Richie Saunders. I mean, you're talking about guys all over the place that dominate. And Utah just, I don't think they have enough. Like you said, I think it's close in the first half just for the rivalry game and being at home. But I think Utah is going to not have enough. BYU pulls away. I think they win 87-77.
And then this will move on, obviously, to our game, and this will kind of advance us to our Paving the Way to Victory segment. Fans, JSI Services is a proud partner of Campus Live, and be sure to visit their website at jsiservicesllc.com to learn more about their asphalt and paving services, earth and dirt works, concrete and gutter paving, crack fill, seal, coating, and stripping services. And once again, we just want to say thank you to JSI Services for their proud support of Campus Live and the Campus Live pregame sports show. And as we kind of move on to our game, Logan, I have two keys. Really, first, I think it's going to be finding our offensive rhythm again. I think we're not going to have any problems with that tonight because Colorado is not a very good defensive team. But we are on the road, and sometimes, you know, when you go on the road, weird things happen, and especially in the Big 12. And Colorado, like we've talked about all day, is a much improved team, and they can score a lot. So, obviously, I think that's going to be my first key. Logan, what's one of your first keys in this game?
The key is going to be on the defensive rebounding side of things. I think you got some, like you said, everybody, a lot of their players 6'9 plus. You got a big, long team. We've seen that Texas Tech has really actually played better against some of these long athletic teams. You've seen them play really well, you know, for a majority of the Arkansas game. Obviously Duke, one of the biggest teams in the country. You know, Houston, very long athletic guards and bigs, but you've been able to rebound the ball pretty effectively. You gave up a couple offensive rebounds to Houston, but nowhere near the amount that they usually get. I think that being able to get rebounds on the defensive side of the basketball is the number one key for this team, and I think that that's going to be something that they really try to make sure to shore up on that side.
Yeah, and I think, secondly, you know, talking about defense, you talked about rebounding. I think it's continuing your defensive rise that we have seen really over this past month. Now, like I said, up to 47th in KenPom. It had been in the hundreds at the beginning of the year, and now it just keeps going lower and lower and lower because our defense has been playing so much better. And I think that really tonight against an offensive team that is so talented like Colorado, once again, 5 different guys in double digits. Isaiah Johnson, one of the best freshmen in the country this year with a top 50 offense in Colorado. I think it's just continuing that defensive effort and hopefully rotating some guys so that we can spell, you know, like we said earlier, getting Christian and JT just a little bit of breather because obviously in this high altitude, it's going to be tough to play like 38 minutes in a game. So what about you? What's one of your last keys, Logan?
I think the last key to victory is being able to continue to shoot the ball well with your key guys. I think you got to continually see Jalen Petty continue to make three-pointers at a consistent rate, Donovan Atwell, and I want to see a guy like Tyree Bryan. Last week I made the prediction that Donovan Atwell and Tyree Bryan would combine for 8+ threes. If I would have just put Jalen Petty in there, then they would have had over 10 threes as both of them had 5 apiece. I think today you do see Donovan Atwell continue to shoot the lights out because I think JT's going to have a huge day. I think they don't have the interior defense to stop JT Toppin, and they're going to have to collapse and double team, even triple team at some points. I think you're going to see a big night from the shooters, and they need to continuously shoot the ball well as we get into these bigger and bigger matchups down the road.
Yeah, and kind of, you know, as we really predict this game, I think this is going to be a close one. You know, Logan actually, you know, saying this is going to be a sold-out arena. Apparently, this could be a really tough matchup for Texas Tech. I think the line is around 6.5, 5.5 right now. So obviously, Vegas, even though that Texas Tech on paper is the way more talented team, even they think that this is going to be a closer game. I think we do get enough stops in a similar way to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's a really talented offensive team as well. But being on the road, we're not going to win by the 20-plus points we did like we did here at the USA. I think Texas Tech wins in a close one. They pull away at the end a little bit. I think we win 92-82. And we actually end up covering that spread, Logan.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech's going to score a lot of points in this game. Like you talked about, not a very good defense on the Colorado side of things. I think Texas Tech is able to do enough on the defensive side, like you talked about, to pull this game away. I think it's very close at halftime, and I think it's going to be a really tight contested game. I think the final 6 or 7 minutes are really going to decide this game. I think Texas Tech pulls away in this game. I think they pull away 92-78. I think you're going to see some big-time playmakers, JT Toppin, Jalen Petty. I think Christian Anderson has one of those games where he's able to just get to the rim at will. I think Texas Tech just, plays their game and continues to ascend as we get to that 5-game gauntlet that we're going to see in a couple of weeks.
Let's do it. Hopefully we start this thing off with a win, Logan.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you all for tuning in to the Campus Live Sports Show, as well as all of the fans that came out here at Golf Suites. We have a great crowd as we are moments away, and on TV that sure looks like a lot of people in Colorado.
Yeah.
So as the game is about to tip off here in a matter of moments, thank you to Golf Suites for hosting us again. We'll be back shortly for the next away game. Make sure y'all tune in. Thank you to Paint Doctor as well as Roof Master here in Lubbock for making this show possible. Make sure y'all tune into the Guns Blazing Podcast, episode 11, out now on all of our platforms. And as always, wreck 'em.
Wreck 'em.
From Miller Waldrop Studios, this is Campus Live.